that we're at least both in the screen. Yes? Okay.
Cool. Hi. For the number that we're going to start here today is 4%. That's actually the amount of global greenhouse emissions internet produced these days. So the number goes between 3.7 to 4, depending on the source. However, we decided to do this one for the rounding effect, and it's been increasing steadily for the last few years. This amount is actually less than agriculture, which is 5.8. However, it is more than all the waste. Which brings us to the topic that even though we have this feeling that digital is something green, that it's when you browse your website, you take your phone, which is it doesn't have any fumes coming out of it, hopefully, and it plugs in, your laptop plugs in, everything is like nice, it's clean, it's all that. A lot of people still have a feeling that the internet is also in the cloud. However, it's not. It's very, very physical. It's very plugged into the grid, which we all know, which we all learn these days, that it's quite dirty still. So that brings us that the digital is actually not equal green. So let's put some numbers to this thesis as well.
So we're just going to focus on one tiny bit of this 4%, which is websites. If you look at just one single web page, you're looking at about, the average size is 2.2 megabytes that an average web page weighs. Now, if we consider about 1,000 monthly views, we do have clients, for example, who have 90 million views a year. So you can imagine that's a lot more than just 1,000 views a month. And then you obviously have a lot of web pages. I would say my own portfolio included has about 3 views. So 1,000 is the nice average we're going to take here. That equates to 26.4 gigabytes of data per year that you're transferring with a single web page, which produces about 9.5 kilograms of carbon emissions. Let's make this tangible. That's the equivalent of taking a car from 2020 and driving from Paris to Chartres. Excuse my pronunciation, I don't know if I got that right. Again, it doesn't really sound like much. We're talking about, the aviation industry. We're talking about, the waste industry. We're talking about agriculture. We're talking about megatons of carbon emissions. But if we take the entire internet and every single web page that's indexed on the internet as of April this year, we're talking about 30 billion web pages alone. So we're going to be generous here. We're going to go with 500 monthly page views. That's really generous. This equates to 141.7 million metric tons of carbon emissions for every web page that is sitting on the internet right now. You could take 30 million cars and drive around the Earth to produce, again from 2020, to produce the same amount of carbon emissions. Does this feel tangible to you now? Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a senior web performance consultant at Cognizant Netcentric.
And I'm Ines. I'm a web performance engineer in Cognizant Netcentric. And today we're going to be talking to how to make our website energy efficient.
So we did some research to prepare for this talk. Every project that we do research before we get started. And we audited 100 websites. I'd like to point out that those websites are from businesses who are actually doing something to target climate change. So we're looking at websites who have created software for carbon accounting. We're looking at businesses who produce solar panels. So all the businesses, the 100 businesses that we looked at, these are businesses targeting, or not targeting, but addressing climate change in their business models. And what we found was that the average page weight was 7 megabytes. This is already 300% bigger than the average web page on the internet. What we found was the largest web page, we're talking about pages here, not websites, this is the largest web page, was 36 megabytes. So this is huge.
It's 8 Bibles.
Exactly. We also found that 58% of them are already green hosted, but a third of those have pages that are bigger than 7 megabytes. So what this tells us that a lot of people are probably green hosting without their own knowledge, without being aware of it. They're probably gone for hyperscalers who are already considered green. That's another conversation. But what they're not doing is understanding that the content that they're creating is also producing carbon emissions. So what it tells us is even if you're green hosting, you could be creating web pages that are 36 megabytes large. You're producing about 11.4 grams of carbon emissions per page view on there. On the flip side, we had a business that was not green hosted and had a page of 0.9 megabytes, which you see produces way less carbon emissions. So that's why the conversation around green hosting is not where it ends, and it's not the solution to everything. So we dug a little deeper, and we looked at a lot of the businesses that we've come across here at this conference the last 2 days.
It was a long night.
It was a very long night. And as you can see, I mean, we're not surprised by the results. As you can see here, there's a bunch that do have pages that are smaller than 2.2 megabytes, but we also have pages that were much bigger. And we suggest anybody on the left side of the 2.2 megabytes come talk to us. But what we found was that 75% of these were already green hosted. But as you can see, a lot of them had heavy content. And what this actually tells us is that the issue that we're looking at is content. And we're going to talk about content is equal to data. So on one side, what we're seeing a lot of the time is product bloat. So we're building so much stuff, creating so much content, and nothing's happening with it. A lot of stuff is just sitting there doing nothing. On the other hand, a lot of stuff is not being used. And the issue is that even though it's not being used, it's not being removed.
And with adding so much to the websites, actually we're entering in this paradox where over the years our technology is getting better. No, it's getting more efficient. Our phones are super, our networks and all that, but we're actually experiencing slower websites, no, because there are like so many things on it. And as a rage clicker myself, how many of you have been very, very frustrated by page not being able to load when you just want to consume some content? So no, you just want to read something, you just want to get some information, and you're not able because of all the, let's say, fluff around. So in order to do something about it, because of course we want to address this issue, first and foremost, we will have to measure. So we come from a web performance background. This is something we have been doing for years. We've been advising our clients how to make their websites faster, more lightweight, more performant, and it always becomes with the measure. It always starts with the measure, in order to actually see, you saw the graph. So there are some sites that have a lot to do. There's some that don't have a lot to do. And only way to know that is to actually, put a number on it. So what we would encourage you right now is to actually measure it. This is a QR code to the website. Carbon Calculator is one of the sites among many that are doing great job in putting a carbon footprint, amount of carbon your website emits here. So you can check this and it's going to give you a really nice report such as this. It puts a lot of things as well into perspective. So what it's going to give you are going to be these two information. First is going to be amount of CO2 that's produced every time someone visits the page. And second one is going to be about if your page is running on sustainable energy. So other than this one, there are many other, as I already mentioned. So, for example, we used amount of data transfer. So, we used bytes when we did the ranking. This is what came from EcoGrader. So, EcoGrader is a tool that's amazing if you also want to get what to do next. So next steps, it gives you a very nice overview of what to do, where to go, and there is many others that are very, very good. So we usually use a combination of these to actually provide with a good number. And one that I'm quite as well excited about is that Firefox actually has in its profiler this energy, and it actually calculates its CO2. So this is a huge shout out to Green Web Foundation and Farshad Irani, whose work I'm a big fan of. So yeah, this is something that it's, again, very, very nice because we're looking at every browser. Once you load your page, it has to execute, no? So all this that has been transferred to the website still has to execute, and that is something that it's training your battery. And raise your hand if you ever had your battery drain in the worst possible case, moment of the day. No, we all had that. So this is something, again, that's not only beneficial to environment, but for us to actually provide us with a better user experience. So it brings us also to one point. So what you see, what you saw in the previous slide, so this number over here that says like how much energy is actually how much CO2. We're doing this with the help of some of the CO2 calculation models. So this is a question I often get from clients as well, like, but how do you calculate this? So I would say very, very, very important disclaimer here is that the community of the green web decided to go with progress over perfection. So this is provided in order to have this the number as soon as possible, to able to provide it relatively, because there is so much research about it happening. There's so many boundaries, and sometimes what we want to do is encourage people to do this and encourage to see the change. We definitely need to fix some of the numbers and concentrate on something else. So the model that's currently mostly in use is sustainable web design model. It's been developed by different companies together with the different foundations, organizations. So it has been a group effort in designing this model. It actually works as a proxy for data transfer. So as you can see, there is many parts of website, and the internet itself. So we're talking here, as Claire already mentioned, only about websites. So when we talk about websites, we have data center usage, the energy data centers used for running and for cooling. We have the network transfer, we have end user device usage, what actual device consumes when it comes to energy, as well as the production, which is a huge deal as well, embodied carbon from the production of actual devices used to access the internet and the websites. Most of these are actually fixed at this point in time, so they have been taken. They have been they're taken from some researches. They're fixed, and we're focusing on actual network transfer, as I said, which is a proxy for how much data has gone through the network. Using grid carbon intensity, depending on the location, then we actually get the calculation for the CO2 emissions. Other one is one byte model. This is the model that has been created by the Shift project, which is, I'm sorry, it's here in the corner. But yeah, it's been created. It's one actually of the first model. Their boundaries are a bit more narrow, so they don't use as many things. Again, a lot of things here is fixed, so it only works on the amount of data. And of course, you can read more about it here. So putting this into practice, because in the end of the day, when we talk about models, we talk about something, again, a bit more theoretical. So putting this into practice, there is amazing tool, CO2JS. It's open source as well. Now, again, I did not account for the small in the corner. So it was developed by the Green Web Foundation. And it implements both of these. It implements one byte model as well as SWD model. You can choose which one you would like, and actually our team does. So we're super happy to use something open source as well. It made our implementation very easy, very quick. So as I mentioned, what we do is we started with web performance. And bit by bit, a few years ago, we realized how much that affects general energy efficiency, how much that affects as well sustainability and the carbon footprint. So other than to actually consult our clients better, we started creating our own tool. So what we wanted to do is have the real user monitoring, to have the data from the real users. So we started building the web performance tool. However, running into the CO2JS and realizing we already have all the data that it needs to calculate, and those are real data, we just implement the part with the carbon footprint. So at this point in time, we're able to provide our clients with a real-time CO2 emissions of their website. So it's like we think it's very cool, they think it's very cool, so it's something that, again, helps us. You can drill very deep into each website, so it's it's measuring the whole site, and then you can actually see which of your actual pages emits most of the carbon. And then you can, as we said, when you measure, when you know where's the problem, you can actually go very deep into solving it.
So we talked about measurement. Let's just bring it back to green hosting again. So if you have checked your websites and you realize that you are not green hosting, we suggest that that's the first thing you do. It is the lowest hanging fruit. It is the fastest fix. But as we mentioned, having had a look at all your websites here, it's not the fix, it's not where it ends. So once you've measured, once you've switched to green hosting, it's time to optimize. And this is a really big part, and this is something that we very much focus on with our clients. So one of the big things that we sit down with our clients and do and say, really define the purpose of your website. Why are you building it? What are you trying to achieve? What do you need your users to achieve? Because as mentioned, so often websites are just created and just dumped on the internet somewhere and sitting around doing nothing, no one is touching them. So it's really important for us to discuss with our clients, what are you actually trying to achieve, and is this the best way? Is this the right solution to your problem? What do you want to achieve, and is this how you can do it? Which also brings us to keeping content up to date. So again, so much is on the internet that is not doing anything. If you can identify, we use so many analytics tools for our websites, and we know when a page has page views. We know when people are on our pages. We know when they're not on our pages. So take that information and start deleting the stuff that isn't being touched. Or if you consider it to be so important that it still needs to be there, maybe consider just removing the images from that, because at the end of the day, we often see that a lot of the images on web pages or blog pages are just unsplash images that don't enhance the user experience overall. So if you're just dumping images there to just look a little bit pretty, maybe reconsider putting them there in the first place, or maybe, remove them. Or, on the other side, optimize them. So again, what we do with our tool, which is quite awesome, we think is cool, is that we can use our tool and really break down onto the different assets that we can find across the entire website. And so we can identify if there's an asset that is across 6 pages on the website or 20 pages on the website, and we can identify what is the biggest image that's producing the biggest amount of carbon emissions, and then we can start optimizing. And optimizing imagery, again, it depends on size, it also depends on format that you can optimize for, and also at the end of the day, you can also make the decision whether it even needs to be there in the first place.
If it's not image or a font, this is usually your main suspect. So JavaScript is something that brings interactivity to the sites. Without JavaScript, we wouldn't have e-commerces. We wouldn't have this whole web applications in the end of the day. We wouldn't have this, the whole thing where we're like, we are actually doing something on the website. However, it has been overused over the years. So actually, the whole topic about green web for myself started by watching a conference talk about JavaScript and how we're using way too much JavaScript, and that the speaker actually recalculated this into CO2 emissions, how many trees we have to plant. And this is the moment I had the whoa, I never thought about this way. And it's it's amazing. That was a few years ago. And there is so much to do, starting with the part of what Claire mentioned, being mindful of what you use it for. No, if you have a hammer, everything is a nail. No, so not everything has to be implemented with the JavaScript. There's a lot of things that can still be implemented natively. And then there is, again, a lot of things that can be updated according to the new trends, which also brings me to the next part, which is keeping tech stack up to date. This is something we saw so many times auditing our clients' project, starting for performance to sustainability as well. It's so many outdated code sitting there. So starting from the biggest issue of that, which is security risks. So many security risks, and then moving forward is like we are talking so much about open source and contributions, improvements. So keeping your stack up to date, keeping with the modern trends, like what's happening. So a few days ago, I actually found some code in the client's site, which is, I would say, around 4 or 5 years old, and had some of the JavaScript that was very, very modern at the time, but it's not anymore because native functions replaced it, so we just don't need this part. And it was around, I think, 25 kilobytes, which doesn't mean much, but then again, if we put them back into perspective from the first, how many people come to this site, how many times it loads, how many times it executes, we get a number. And then this was only one piece of JavaScript. So keeping tech stack up to date, seeing if something can be implemented in a better way, not necessarily all over again, but just updating things can also make a huge difference. So removing stuff and optimizing stuff as well. So generally we would definitely be pro for removing. No, if you can remove, if you don't need, that will be the best option. However, a lot of business roles know, starting talking to your designers, to your business owners, product owners, don't really do that. No. So you come, you talk us, okay, are we? This is putting a bloat. This is even emitting a lot of CO2, but they really want it. It brings up to the let's say a really cool font. That's our brand. It's on point. So a lot of times this is, for example, from the developer's perspective, when I usually talk, is a battle. A lot of times you just cannot win. So what we can do in this case is, again, do some optimization that will improve it and that we can do ourselves. So one of these things is actually, for example, browser caching. It's something we've also seen so many times. It's not well implemented, and it's very easy in theory to do. So every time we take a website for the first time, it stores all the assets, all the JavaScript, most of the images it can store in our browser if the cache policies have been set correctly. So setting these things to, especially for the websites, most of us go to the same website many times. We don't do every single day different website from the internet. We usually go to the same news portal, weather portal, doesn't matter, some of the social medias. And actually with the browser caching, we can not only make our own user experience faster because all the resources are already right there, we are removing the whole part of network. So we are not taking the resources from the network, from the server, or even like CDN, depending where it actually is at that point. So setting a right caching policy is something, again, that can be very beneficial. If you actually have the opportunity to set your website from scratch, this is something like progressive design is something that we would as well suggest to use. So progressive design is, from my perspective, all about listening to your user. A lot of our phones have these, save energy mode, save data mode, which dark or light theme you prefer. So there's so many things we can, for example, as well, one that is very important for accessibility as well is like a reduced motion on the page, which can even trigger some attacks for some people. So these are the things that users can set up for themselves, and most of the time designing website, we don't take this into consideration. So someone is on a really low plan and we serve a 5 megabyte of video. It's not fair. I don't think that's fair to do to our user. So what we are encouraging here is give user a chance to decide. Deliver them the basic, only the content they need, and then give them according. So these are the information we can actually get from our browser, and according to that, being able to deliver a different experiences. In case you see that your user is on the computer plugged in with the Wi-Fi, with the super fast internet, unsplash all the way you want. But like if someone is on a load, their battery is dying, they have a phone which is not the highest, like the newest brand and everything, and it's very, very often that happens as well. We do want to respect that. So designing for this progressively, so let's say in a case of maybe a blog page would be that you just deliver content, maybe even without the font, because in the end of the day, users, in order to consume content that you want to deliver to them, don't need the font. And then as you see that you have the resources to deliver more, deliver more. Dark theme is as well something I already mentioned is a preference. For years it has been associated with the hackers, in their own little corners doing stuff. I think I scared many peoples on a train doing that as well. They always thought I'm trying to hack them, but yeah, I was just doing a HTTP server up. So dark theme is actually something that started, and all the developers started using this not to be cool and to look like Matrix. They started to using this because it's a less strain on the eyes, first and foremost. And second, if you can see, we did design our presentation in a dark theme because the whole screen emits energy, and the darker it is, the less energy it actually emits. So this is, again, it's not a huge amount, but we take whatever we can in this point in time.
So we found the definition of the European Parliament, which implies that energy efficiency means using less energy to produce the same results. But we're of the opinion if you just utilize these strategies of reducing your media files, reducing JavaScript, removing stale content, optimizing your hosting, updating the stack regularly, and optimizing your images, your fonts, your videos, any kind of media, and maybe going for dark theme. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but we're of the opinion that if you do all these strategies, you're actually using less energy to produce a better result. So, if you're interested to learn more about these topics, this was a very high-level presentation. It's very hard to get it all into 20, 30 minutes. We suggest that you start here. Some of these are courses, some of these are organizations, Green Web Foundation. Chris, we have our eye on you. We'd love to talk to you. There's also Climate Action Tech, which is a really awesome community, Slack community. If you're on more of the design side of things, Sucks down here as well. And obviously the Sustainable Web Design organization as well has a lot of the manifesto and stuff like that. There's also really awesome books. There's a whole load more.
I guess important to also put an emphasis here. We're both working at the moment with the W3C community group in order to provide some standards. So industry doesn't have standards yet. So hopefully they will be there in September. So working on that. And yeah, if you're
interested in continuing the conversation with us, or if you found yourself on the left side of 2.2 megabytes, add us on LinkedIn or come and talk to us. We do have the green stickers on our back.
The left side, the beer's on us.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Can you show that slide again with all the different companies?
Yes.
My company is on the far left. I want to take a picture.
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Show the rest of the
This one.
Oh, yes, there we are, Utility API.
Oh, yes, you were the best. You're the winners.
You have a beer, so you come later.
You guys were green hosted and you had the smallest web page of 0.4.
So can I just say that is actually quite deliberate.
That's awesome.
I don't know that we were. What?
We're happy to share this slide as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We can we can put it on LinkedIn or we can put it on Twitter or whatever.
I don't know that we were thinking about energy.
So I mean, this is kind
a lot of time thinking about, what if you have a crappy phone and you're on the subway?
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of it is also ethical design as well. It's being able to provide the information that you want to people who do not. And it's a luxury that we have flat rate data plans.
The tech bubble, though.
Yeah, not everybody has that. So why are we draining everybody's data plan just to show an auto-playing video? Many of the businesses, the 100 businesses that we looked at, had auto-playing videos in the Hero that just doesn't enhance the user experience. If anything, it makes it worse.
I guess again, we spent so much time last night trying to put this from 1 hour to 25 minutes because it was so many slides originally. And for example, one of the strategies as well, just kind of building on this with the video, is including import on interaction. It's actual call, how it's called. So basically that you are including videos or for example, chats. We actually just implemented stuff like this with a client I'm working with to not play video unless user actually requests for it. it made such a huge difference because, again, like depending on a video, but a lot of video users are not playing. Also, like a lot of times they prefer to play it when they're on phones. They prefer to do it in an app rather than like in the small like screen on the mobile. So that's just something that goes towards design of giving user the option. No, so you're the one saying, okay, here's a video that follows this whole thing. You are the one to decide, are you going to play it or not? And I'm not going to force these 5 megabytes on top of you on your data plan, and in the end of the day, go for the part as like, I'm not going to make you uncomfortable in the metro because it's all of a sudden going to start playing or things like that. So hit us.
Any other questions? Was there anybody on the left? Sorry, you go.
In one of the parameters that you presented in Control was data transfer, which is linked to the distance the data has to travel. And it is very similar to some of the problematics that we've seen with the energy network. And in the energy, there has been talk about changing the way energy is transported and reducing these distances. Do you know if there is any broader project, not necessarily part of your activities, to change the way data is transferred and maybe close the distance, make something more optimized?
Well, I guess the first and foremost part for this would be the CDNs, to actually serve your content on the content delivery networks, the CDN. So one thing I actually wanted to do here as well, but we really didn't manage to fit it, is actually show how internet works. Now actually show all the parts of the internet to actually see everything that's plugged in, to kind of get rid of this black box or cloud in this case, So maybe in some different talk, but yeah, so using CDNs is basically what, in the end of the day, like shortens the distance, and this is what it makes again like shorter in this case. It started as a performance as well optimization because your content has to travel less distance and it's going to come to your device faster. So at this point, as I already mentioned, like browser caching, CDNs, these are the parts that you can kind of also maybe serving from the edge network, stuff like this. This is something that as well can help, but I'm not sure if there's anything when it comes to actual implementation of the delivery, the part even like, so from the CDN, if you're as close as possible, let's say, you're in Germany, you're trying to get some website that's originally from US, thank God to CDNs, we don't have to do that. It's probably going to be in Frankfurt. So we actually just go towards Frankfurt and not all the way to US. But I don't know if there's anything in this, let's say, I live in Munich, so Munich, Frankfurt distance, that's actually getting optimized. So this is, I don't know. Chris, maybe, do you?
For energy nodes, virtual transmission and CDNs are essentially the same concept. Like, by having local capacity, you reduce the need for transmission further along. So it's basically the same idea, and that's what we've got there. The thing I can point you to is a paper that we put together called Extending IPv6 for Carbon-Aware Networking, where we specifically looked at ways to allow packets to express an interest in where they want to go to. There's a project we're doing called Carbon.text, which is specifically allowing organizations to share some of this as like headers in HTTP, so you can express some of the preferences, but that's super early. Like we're probably going to announce it in a few months, next month. But yeah, I'm very happy to talk about it and know about all the specifics because they're basically the same idea.
Yes.
Yep.
So I work for Eliander.
Yes.
A large website, I think. And
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think the website, they use a lot of like really big images.
You had an auto-playing video in your hero.
I think that the designers think that's
The best thing ever.
Yes, well, the argument that we bring is now you have an argument for that, because very often it is the business against the people implementing and saying you don't really need that, but the designers and the business side of marketing are saying we need that, this is the coolest hip thing. You now have an argument you can bring to those people and say, okay, very well, but please consider the environmental impact that you're also adding to by having this on your website.
Yeah.
So
my question was going to be exactly like how do I, if I would want to do something about this, then how would I approach the website team or something? But then you said like you can.
So usually what we do is we do a bit of an audit, as we did on here. We check the multiple tools for different things, and you can easily do it. It's open to everyone to do it. You can put a little report together and say, here, this is the state of your website. I can't give you the number off the top of my head because there's many that we went through last night, but something along the lines of 85% worse than all websites that have been tracked with carbon websites. So you can bring the numbers, and at the end of the day, you're also from a performance perspective, if you're optimizing, you're also increasing your conversion rate, because you have less of a bounce rate, because something that loads long means people are just going to drop off. So you've also got the monetary side of things that you can also bring to marketing, and they love the increased conversion rate, decreased bounce rates, money.
It's been years of trying to convince people about this from a performance perspective. So actually putting this in a sustainability perspective also gave us an extra tool, because something I always like to say is no one ever complained about a fast website. No one ever came, oh, you know what? Your website was just too fast. So I guess this is something that we've been trying to optimize from all these perspectives. And a lot of times I had so many fights. In one company, they called me the mean performance lady, because I would just go inside and I was like, okay, who put that carousel over there? Come talk to me. But that's the thing. It's in the end of the day, you spend so much time, from the developer's perspective, you have spent so much time optimizing, shredding, for example, JavaScript. So one of the things that's still happening a lot, so JavaScript adapted for HTTP1 was one big bundle, because that's how the network worked back then, and that's what the best option. And we work with the CMS, content management systems. And what's happening there is that you have so many components, and all of these components, all of their code come on every single website, and you're using 2. So the whole code coverage, for example, of JavaScript would be 3%. And you're serving 1 megabyte of JavaScript to just load header and footer, because for example, you have blog page, you have header, footer, and everything else is a text. So you're serving, let's say, some maybe calculators or some carousels and all that code everywhere. So basically, for example, doing some optimization such as adapting your JavaScript for HTTP2, which means serving only the JavaScript you need for each component, that's something that made a huge difference, again, in all these things. So getting clients to do stuff like this, and we actually did this. It took months to do it. And okay, depending again on the site, it definitely made an impact, but let's say you shred off 200, 300 kilobytes, and then marketing comes with a 5 megabyte image. So I'll just take my bag and go home hiking, because what am I even doing here? No, we spend so much effort. So this is, again, I think what we were trying to as well emphasize, it's a group effort. Yeah. So it's no one man alone here. It's not developers' fault. It's not designers' fault. It's not everyone's fault. It's everyone group effort in order to come to the same goal. No, we all want the same thing, which is have a happy user and Earth to live on. So.
And it's also about raising awareness. So I'm fairly sure that your Alianda team aren't even aware. And now you are, so we at least think that we did our job right, because we hope that you are going to go to your marketing team. And what we're finding is we give a similar talk every now and then, and there's always one person in the room who's like, I have to go talk to my marketing team.
I'm already discussing with my developers, and I was like, do you know what to do? Yes. So I would suggest EcoGrader. So just go straight to EcoGrader. They give you as well, they give you the page weight as well, so they will give you this number, whatever here is, so you're somewhere around here, which could be 20-ish, more or less, no? So go to EcoGrader, and they will give you as well a nice,
step by step,
as well, kind of analytics of is it JavaScript or images, so it was going to tell you what is actually making a mess. And then of course, for example, in our case, what we do is we help you fix this. Yeah. So I myself have been doing web performance exclusively now for, around 3-4 years, which means I've seen a lot. And then, of course, you are the ones to help put this number into perspective, put this everything, and then discuss, depending on a tech stack, how to improve, especially with all these big companies that it's not super easy to implement something the way it should be done. No, so you have to do workarounds and all that. So it's definitely a complex topic. That's kind of, again, why we have a job. But yeah, to start point, EcoGrader, it will give you just the basic description. And yeah, please raise it. Please raise this. Yes?
What do you think about metering tools like green IT analysis, Castor Green, Frigger, and things like that? Common use to use them, it use less.
So I'm guessing that's more on the green software side of things,
Yeah.
right? So that's more on, I guess you would consider that more the back end side of things. We very much focus on the front end
Yeah.
side of things. My opinion, personal opinion on these things are, it doesn't really matter if you're using all these things if you're the only one using all these things, and your whole team isn't aware. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think what needs to happen is if you start going into green coding and really trying to optimize the back-end side of things. If you're, I mean, we had, for example, the Green Software Foundation yesterday talking about location shifting and load shifting, etc., etc. Yes, it makes a difference, but at the same time, if you're still loading all sorts of heavy content, you're not optimizing the full holistic picture. And I think what we know is that when we're talking about climate change, we need to be considering the holistic picture and not just one thing. So what we often see is, and this is the biggest topic that I'm seeing at the moment, everyone's like green coding this, let's do, from the Green Software Foundation, but no one's really talking to marketing. The conversation is not in with marketing. There's just very few. I know that D-Impact are really looking at it, and thanks to Chris, you sent me the link for that. But for me, the biggest question is, and I'm trying to really dig deeper on that, is that no one is really talking the holistic picture. We're looking at software very, very closely. We are looking at web, but we're not looking at really training and raising awareness with the people who have the business side of things, the reason why these things are being built. So, does that answer your question?
One more question. You said not too much JavaScript. What do you think about Bootstrap and things like that? Do you recommend to use them or not?
Well, that's the part again. Do you really need it? No. So this is the part of the thing of the delivering. So I'm actually doing a redesign of my personal website and to try to apply as many of these principles. So one of the things that, for example, a lot of things you have fonts. No. So you have a font. There's a lot of times we say subset the font to only the characters you need. So what I did is actually subset it only to my name and surname, which is 9 letters. So, I just completely, I don't need any other characters. I just need these 9. So I went from 24 kilobytes to 2, which is, something that, again, like it was like, okay, like I really don't need this. So in case of the Bootstrap as well, it's just, again, depending how reusable some stuff are, because a lot of times, again, these like libraries give way more than you need. No, so actually the library I was mentioning that we found at the client side was Lodash. So Lodash.js was, yeah, exactly. it was great some time ago, no, but like now it's just, and it was not implement only the functions you need, it was everything. So it was a full library with a bunch of functions that just, do something, but you do not use all of these functions. One of the functions was used. So you're loading 24 kilobytes to use one function that it's actually at this point in time native option of JavaScript. So this was the whole part of like, be careful, like check it, go back to it, review it, like how it's like reuse, reduce, recycle, no, like
applies to web
review as well. Another R, review, reduce, so I guess this would be like, again, we are not at any point in time saying don't use it. No, a lot of times we're talking as well about frameworks, Vue, React, Angular, all these things. And from web performance perspective, I was like, I'm not discouraging it, but I'm discouraging it for the sake of using it. Because again, coming from a developer perspective and hanging out with developers most of my life, so I've went to computer science high school, so it's been a while that I'm hanging out with developers. We do like new shiny things, and we do it just because we like it, not because this is actually the best way of doing it. No. So I remember as well once I implemented something in Vue.js because, of course, after extensive research, and someone just came in and I was like, oh yeah, but let's do it in Angular, and I was like, no. Why would you do it in Angular? Well, it's more powerful, and I was like, but we don't need power. Because we don't need these functions you're telling me, like all these functionalities. We have requirements, and they fit perfectly into Vue, which was at that point in time, like was way more lightweight, it was faster, it was more performant. And then again, on different site, I used Angular because I needed all of these functions. So again, the whole point is like, why do you need a website? Do you even need it? Why do you need it? And what are the functions you actually need? So I guess like this is the part as well with the Bootstrap. Never saying don't use it, but use it if you see that you can benefit from it, if the code coverage is good, if you're actually using it.
And maybe remove parts that you're not using of that.
3 shake.
Yeah. There was a question here.
Yeah, just like, I don't even know if you have the same sort of information, but like, it seems to me that probably a lot, you're talking about like marketing sites that have like big pictures and lots of stuff, right? Like, you know, we live in a world of like surveillance capitalism, so there's all kinds of like trackers and all this would not only make your site slower, but also very intrusive and all that kind of stuff. So like, to what extent, you know, could we address the problem through just like getting rid of that? Like,
Please.
you know,
Please.
So exactly, right? You know, like, because, you know, a lot of that stuff is like every ad or whatever has its own tracker.
Yeah.
And it's got its own set of JavaScript, right? That's all running, that makes the site slow, that like, you know, do you think like something like GDPR, which to me, like I'm American, it just looks like I just get a box I gotta click every time that says I accept cookies, right? Does it really change anything? So I just wondered if like it's this wastefulness is sort of baked into the business model of the internet.
Yes, I would say GDPR is its own topic. I would separate that out because it's really it's data protection, right? And for some people that is important. I know my dad is the kind of person who goes around clicking through as far as he possibly can to make sure that none of his cookies are being tracked. But on the other side, we do, like you said, we have had clients who've had like 4 different types of analytics tools that are in their code to do this tracking. So what we try and do as well is it's about being mindful. So if this is something that you need, and very often marketing teams need this to be able to report progress and success, but to really look at what they need and maybe not track some of the data that they don't even know what to do with, and then also remove the ones and see if they can find one tool that does multiple things at once. But yeah, there's personal opinions about how much we should be tracking, yeah.
It's a hard topic. It's a hard topic. Like again, like for example, me personally, I put on my website, I found like I was doing it. Of course, I'm front end. I need my own website, so I just went, of course, to do it myself. And I was like, oh yeah, it would be cool to know how many people actually come, all 3 of them. And I was like, okay. I went straight away, you know, putting Google Analytics, and I was like, stop right there. And I was like, do I really need Google Analytics? So I just went kind of into a bit of a research, and in the end, I found a really like small one that doesn't even need approval, because only thing it tracks is page views. Because like, I just need page views. I don't need like where are they coming from, whatever. I'm kind of interested, like, you know, how many people actually came. Like, in the end of the day, what we were saying, does it even make sense to have this online, or should I just, you know, accept the awful truth that no one wants to visit my website and just delete it from the internet and not make more waste over there? But for example, that I was mentioning, like the company that I was doing as well, like a bit performance, the ones that called me mean performance lady. Like basically what I did there is I asked them for all the third parties, all the tracking. I was like, okay, so I've seen the tracking are doing a lot of trouble. So I was like, okay, can you give me the list and who is responsible for what? There was no such thing. So basically, everyone was putting whatever they want whenever they want it. And this is something that's, again, we really encouraged. As Claire already said, we are not saying remove everything. It would be the best thing. But again, don't remove anything, but keep what you need. So I still remember there was the Hotjar installed, which is a tool that kind of helps you for user experience to track where user kind of clicks. Someone from the UX installed that, did the research, and forgot about it for 4 years. So every single time a page was loaded, around 50K of Hotjar was loaded in the critical rendering path, before even anything was loaded. So it was slowing down your site because someone just forgot to remove it. So this is the part where we're quite trying to as well dig also with the clients. Just again, what if you need it? No problem, but just don't forget about these things and be mindful what you put on the website.
There might be something that I can share for this that may be
of course.
interesting factor. So in 2018, when GDPR actually was about to land, USA Today had to switch off all the ad blocking, ad tracking on their website, and I wrote a blog post in 2018 about what were the impacts of this. Now the numbers are a little bit out of date, but USA Today switching off all the ad blocking worked out to be a rough saving of someone taking a flight between New York and Chicago every day for a year, just from that one change. So there are numbers that you can get, and there's actually an article in the magazine called Branch, which talks about a lot of this in a lot more detail with some peer-reviewed studies on this. I'm happy to chat about it more.
Cool. Also, I think there was like article about actually saying that this is something that should be implemented by the browsers as well. That actually the browser should be the one that you can say on the level of browser, no, like I don't want any of the parties, no, like third parties, so I don't want any tracking, which means by default, again, we should be respecting user's choice and straight away not even load it, no? So again, and not ask over and over and over and over again these things.
I'm just aware that we're standing between you and lunchtime. So if you want to continue conversations, come chat to us. Otherwise, have a great lunch.